Joel and Ginger Millermon became champions of the gift of life in the long medical journey with their premature twin boys, Brennan and Jarrett. Well, in that long and very difficult process, something else was birthed. It has enriched their lives and added a chapter to their story. This is the book that Ginger wrote, Grace Thus Far, a journey of hope and healing. Welcome. Good to have you together from Kansas.
Thank you.
Hutchinson?
That's
Hutchinson,
right.
yep.
Kansas. And for those who missed this story, boy, epic journey. You just look too good for survivors. Truly, it is such a story. Give us a capsule of what this represents, chiefly.
This story is about, just chronicles the journey of faith that God took our family through with our premature boys, Brennan and Jarrett, born 30 weeks, 2 pounds, 14 ounces apiece. Our son Jarrett was not expected to survive. In fact, the doctors gave up on him. He went through major stomach reconstruction, feeding tube, tracheostomy, on life support for months and months. And at 4 months old, we were asked to take him off of life support and let him go. And Joel and I refused to do that, and really at the end of what we could do as parents and the end of what the medical field could do, is God showed what he could do. And
you have a healthy teenage boy today.
Two healthy teenage boys, and God has just really been so gracious to us through this journey.
Lots of changes, not just in the journey, but as a result of the journey. Joel, you were a youth pastor.
Mm-hmm.
You had to leave that.
Yeah, we decided to move to Kansas from Colorado because of elevation and issues that I actually left the ministry because of the issues that we were going through, and we just were traveling back and forth to the hospital all the time, and I just couldn't fathom the issues of the church at the time. Yeah, we were basically in survival mode, you know, with Jarrett coming home. He came home on a ventilator and 24-hour nursing care, and Ginger was very stressed, dealing with all the issues of that, and me trying to support the family as well, and so we ended up.
You had a preschooler at home before the twins,
right.
Yeah.
And
so we were needing some more family support for Ginger primarily, and so we couldn't go to higher elevation in Colorado where Jarrett was, so we ended up moving to Kansas where Ginger's family were, and so we ended up moving to Hutchinson, Kansas, and from there the Lord just kind of began slowly leading us into music ministry, and we just felt like the Lord was wanting us to share what he has taken us through, and that was the platform that he had chosen for us.
And what a platform. 6 CDs to date, am I right, Mom?
That's right.
And you all travel.
We do. It's quite an adventure, all of us piling in, 4 kids, and we get to travel as a family. Joel runs our ministry and books and does all of that, and I speak to women and do concerts and conferences, and we love it.
And
it's
sing.
an adventure.
And sing. And
that's right.
Anothen Music, that's the ministry banner. And what does that mean?
Anothen is Greek for from above, and so we just thought that just really fit what we were looking for. We really want to please the Lord with the ministry, and so we just felt like when the Lord gives Ginger songs to sing, we feel like, well, that's a gift from God. So that's what we chose to as our banner, I guess.
Well, the doctors attest in their forwards and afterwards in the book to a miracle being the only way to describe the outcome of this journey, and the Lord did so much more than just rescue your son's life, launch you in a ministry of telling of his goodness and power. He birthed something else in your hearts through the journey with Jarrett.
He did. Really, it was just not long after Jarrett came home for the first time at 13 months old. Joel and I attended a Christian concert and heard about the work that World Vision at the time was doing in third world countries and for children who were in crisis. And I guess I probably knew how many orphans there were worldwide before this, maybe in my head, but it had never really touched my heart. And the same for Joel. And that night, God just did something neat in our hearts to say, it was just like He put on our hearts, I just saved your child. And you know what that's like to see a dying child and to have a dying child, a child that's suffering. You can help another family. And so that night we started to sponsor a little boy in Ethiopia. His name was Bukulo Godibo, and we still sponsor him. He's a young man now. And God just put this passion for children in third world countries on our heart, and that was just the very beginning. And so through our ministry over the past 4 or 5 years, we've been working with World Vision and have been to several third world countries. And God has just grown and grown this love and this compassion for children that are suffering and in great need in third world countries.
Encouraging others to do the same.
Right.
And then I think it was just an email from friends who'd adopted Russian orphans.
Right.
Tell us about that.
We came home from a long tour. We'd been gone about 10 weeks, and we laugh about it now. We were probably very exhausted. And I opened this email in our office, and there were pictures of 10 little girls in an orphanage in India who desperately needed homes. And we weren't even talking about adopting at the time. We had sort of said maybe someday we could look at that. But God just really laid this little girl on our hearts. Her name is Shazmita. She was 3 years old in her picture. And I just joke, I say she just looked like a tan Millerman. She just looked like
Millerman.
She looked like one of our kids, and we just sort of knew she was ours. And
sense of belonging right away.
Yeah.
What did your daughter Kenzie say when she saw? There were many faces on the screen, right?
Yeah, there were 10 girls, and Joel and I looked at all of these girls, and we both said, "This is the one that's really catching our heart." And Mackenzie happened to walk into our office, and I said, "Hey, Kenzie, look at these beautiful little girls." I didn't tell her they were orphans, that they needed homes, and she pointed right at Shaz, at her picture, and she said, "That's the one, Mom."
And how old was she?
Oh, Kenzie would have been about 13 at the time.
13.
Yeah. And
1 year later, you're on a plane to India.
yes, almost to the date. A year later, we were on our way to India, going to Orissa, which we knew Orissa was an area that was very hostile to Americans, to Christianity, a lot of Christian persecution there. And knowing this, we were going in very carefully, but we had no idea the adventure that was in store for us. You
would, in fact, be there for the worst persecution of Christians in Asia in decades. Right. I think some of us know the details of that time.
Yeah. It was
many
horrific.
People killed.
Right.
Churches burned. You were right in the heart of that, plus the middle of the monsoon season. What did that mean in your real experience?
Right. Yeah, we Millermans don't travel normally. We always have adventure. So we were flying into Orissa the very day that persecution started. A Hindu leader had been assassinated. The Christians initially were blamed, and all of this violence was starting. Things were burning in the streets, shops were burning, cars were burning. We found out later hundreds of people thousands I think, had fled into the forest. Hundreds were killed. And we got to our hotel and were told to stay inside, that it would not be safe for us even to go outside because people would see us and know we were American, assume we were Christian, and we would be harmed. So we spent about 24 hours hiding in our hotel.
Hold up. Joel, did you think you'd made a mistake?
No, not really. It was definitely a little bit hair-raising, and it made you a little nervous. You know, we were thinking, okay, here we're going to all the way to Orissa to adopt one child, and we're going to leave 3 orphans home, you know.
Yeah.
And so it did, you know, but then what was really neat about it was another couple that was adopting one of the 10 Orissan girls that were on that picture as well that we saw, and we were meeting
at the very
up,
same time?
Yeah, same time, and we were staying in the same hotel. And they were actually the ones who told us about the bombing. Did you hear about the bombings in Orissa? And we're like, no. And here we're flying into Orissa, you know. And so but what was really neat about it, they're believers as well. And so we just spent lots of time praying and even planning escape routes and things like that. You know, you don't think that you would need to plan escape routes, being in a hotel room, but we didn't know if people were going to rush our hotel room or what. So we were just trying to plan ahead and be wise, and the Lord, you know, just really opened things up for us to be able to go get Shaz. And one of the things that He used was a downpour the next morning that allowed all the streets to be cleared, and we were able to drive there with really no hindrance at all.
People don't come out in that heavy rain.
No,
No.
no. And
You talk in this chapter about the peace that only God can give,
yeah,
even when your lives are being threatened and nothing's going as planned.
There was just a sense of knowing that it doesn't matter where we are in the world when you're in the center of God's will, and we knew that we were, that's where you're safe. We were just as safe there in India as we were in our home in Kansas. And so while there was some apprehension and definitely some tension, there was just a complete peace knowing God was in control of the situation.
Tell us about that precious moment when you met your daughter for the first time.
well, we pulled up to the orphanage, and that was quite an experience in itself. The gates opened and we drove in, and all we heard was mommy, daddy, all over the orphanage. All the kids
children.
were
Oh,
screaming,
yeah.
mommy, daddy, which was very heartbreaking because we knew that we were there for one, you know, and not all of them. But yes, I'll let you share the story
Well,
as we met Shaz.
It was pretty amazing. We saw a little girl race by in a red dress, and I knew that was her. And her nanny whisked her away because they have a process that they want to go through. They want the child to be perfectly dressed and ready, and they take you to a room that has a big sign over the door that says, "Meet your child." And so that was the room that you meet your child in. And so we waited there for her, and it was just an incredible moment when she came around the corner and saw us for the first time, and we saw her, you know, short black hair. They keep their hair very short. And just the most beautiful thing. And she was just almost stunned. You know, we look back at the pictures and laugh because she sort of had a glazed look in her eye, but she was so excited to see us, and hugs right away. And she knew 3 English words. She knew mommy, daddy, and cookie. And
The essentials of life.
the essentials of life. When you're 4, what else do you need? And so she was already, you know, right away just saying mommy and daddy and hugging us, and it was really a beautiful moment.
It is touching to read about some of those other children and the tug on your hearts because you could just take one. Would all of those children be expecting to be adopted? Is that why they were saying mommy, daddy?
No, they knew that we were there. They let them know we were there for Shaz and the other family there for their little girl Sova. So they knew those 2 girls were leaving, but there's just such a longing that their mommy and daddy would come. Some of them already had parents in the U.S. or different parts of the world waiting on them, and so they knew their time was coming. Others didn't have families yet, and that was the hardest part, knowing that there were some that didn't have families yet. And I took every second that I had in that day to touch and love and pray over each kid I could get my hands on. That was my goal for the day.
Just
as
to
we spent
bless
there.
them all.
Yeah.